Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. And tonight's top stories, we've got some Conservatives ripping Liberals in the House of Commons in Friday's session. We also got a Australian news crew ripping Justin Trudeau. It is a beautiful thing, as well as a couple other clips here on grocery prices and some memes. So let's check this out. First off, the clip here from the House of Commons. There's a back and forth going on here. This is a pretty glorious speech here.
Madam Speaker, the truth of the matter is that Albertans get $700 a year more through the Canada Carbon Rebate. It's one of the highest amounts that anybody in the country gets back. Madam Speaker, Albertans want us to fight climate change. That's exactly what we're doing. We had forest fires, we've had floods, we've had wildfires. Madam Speaker, our residents of Alberta want us to fight climate change. What they don't want is the Conservatives to ruin the rebate.
For Calgary Forest Lawn.
That minister from Alberta should be ashamed of himself. He's constantly ramming this Prime Minister's woke ideology down the throats of Albertans when he should be the voice of Alberta at the cabinet table. Why doesn't he stand with the majority of Albertans that say axe a tax and scrap this scam instead of standing with this corrupt Prime Minister? Just a simple question for him. Does he have his job references lined up? Because after the next election, him and this carbon tax scam will be gone.
That was amazing. Well said. Randy, pick yourself up, man.
Madam Speaker, I'm glad to see that we've reached such a level of collegiality in this House that somehow the Conservatives think they can threaten my job with what residents in Alberta want, which is us to fight climate change. Madam Speaker, where was that person when there were floods in Calgary, when there were forest fires burning Fort McMurray? These people think it's a joke. It's not woke. They need to wake up. Climate change is real. $700 more in the pockets of Albertans. That is real change. That's the Canada Carbon Rebate.
That's so pathetic, man. So jumping ahead here, there's a couple more juicy clips.
Page 3, the independent PBO states, quote, "We incorporate estimates of the economic impact from the federal fuel charge into our calculation of net cost to provide a more complete picture of the overall impact on households. Taking into account that economic impact, the carbon tax clearly makes families in every province worse off. In Alberta next year, the report says that families will pay almost $1,000 more than they get back in rebates at a time when it costs more than ever for even the basics of life. How can any Alberta Liberal or NDP MP support this 23% tax increase?"
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, what the PBO and the Auditor General said very clearly is that they're distressed with the selective use of facts from that report, Madam Speaker. And what they also said is that the economic cost is important to look at because there is a price to climate change. Climate change cost the Canadian economy over $2 billion last year, and it's likely that it's going to cost more this year because of wildfires adjacent to that member's riding. Madam Speaker, it's atrocious that the Conservatives stand in this House and misuse the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report. What he said very clearly is the consensus of economists is that carbon taxes are the least interruptive way to reduce emissions, and that rebate sends 8 out of 10 families more.
Adam Van Couverden is such an absolute liar. Like, the guy is such a liar. It's unbelievable. I'm compiling some footage from around the world of cost of food. You can't argue the cost of food. If they haven't gone up everywhere, then it's not climate change, man. And spoiler alert, it's not climate change. So let's jump in the next clip here. Next up, we got a clip here from the prices at Costco in Canada. Despite how expensive this is, Costco is one of the most affordable places to shop. So if you're from another country, buckle up.
Shop with me at Costco Canada. The prices are insane. 3 steaks are $70. A strip loin roast, $180. Prime rib roast, $169.
That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts.
Prime rib roast, $169. Okay, now this is amazing. Sushi at Costco. How did I have no idea? Totally reasonable price too. Okay, back to overpriced food. $11.99. Thing of grapes. 5 avocados, $8.99. This was $450. I believe I got like 10 items.
The avocados, $9 for 5 avocados, really? The meats there, that's just outrageous. And Costco is more affordable than most other stores, aside from going to Dollarama or Dollar Tree. This is just getting absolutely insane. Next up, we got a news clip here from Australia where these hosts absolutely grill Justin Trudeau. But first, they talk about EVs. They talk about using EVs in the logging industry. They have a segment there. And the CEO of Hertz using electric vehicles and thus getting fired for doing so. Let's check it out.
The net zero policy. So Chris Bowen is desperately wanting us all to get electric vehicles. He's wandering around Western Sydney throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars at people to get EV trucks. Well, let's just have a listen to this EV truck expert, a logging expert. Let's just have a listen to part of what he had to say over in the States.
Do you ever see yourself going 100% EV?
No.
And why not?
I mean, maybe. If battery technology gets better, grid infrastructure gets better. But like this truck, like a logging truck uses about 2.5 megawatts of power per day. With extra capacity in the battery means you need a 3 megawatt battery pack. The biggest one is like a Tesla Semi, which is like a 1 megawatt. So you need 3 megawatts to run an electric truck. There's 5,000 logging trucks that haul logs at 2.5 megawatts of consumption per day. That's 12.5 gigawatts of power. Site C Dam has been under construction for the last, 15 years at a cost of $20 billion, and that has a 1.1 gigawatt. So a $20 billion dam that takes 15 years to build has a 1.1 gigawatt capacity, and logging trucks, just logging trucks alone, are using 12.5 gigawatts. You would have to flood an area of land the size of Wales to produce that hydropower. Well, we need a lot to make a fully electric feasible on the North American grid with batteries and all that. But if you can make it more efficient and you can make it a hybrid and you can reduce your fuel consumption by 50%, and you can burn that as a generator where it's 1 RPM, running hot, burning cleaner, well, isn't a 50-60% reduction in emissions a lot better than investing everything into a fully electric technology that's not really going to work for 90% of the applications, meaning that the other 100% are still burning 100% of the diesel?
Common sense, the figures don't add up. You can't get to net zero. Ask the people who actually work for a living, James.
What are we talking about here? Using electric vehicles to go logging? I mean, logging is the last thing we should be doing. We should all be living in straw yurts or whatever it is that we're going to go to next year. I mean, no, obviously the maths simply don't make sense. They don't stack up, and they keep trying to play with the maths every time anybody points it out and says, oh, no, you can't say that. It's just, you're being, you're terrible and blocking and all that. I mean, you can see that in the whole fight that the CSIRO got into last week when, they were called out for their assumptions on the costs and the ability to get to net zero. Again, it doesn't work. It is a physical impossibility. If you look around the world, you see that gas and coal are still being used. If we were a sensible country, we would be using a lot of gas to get us to nuclear rather than going and doing, what this guy says they're trying to make him do, which is, go all in on electrifying everything. Among other things, there's so many other issues too. People don't realize that the power that comes out of a lot of renewables projects isn't high quality electricity. So it comes into the grid unstable. It needs to be smoothed. This is going to, once you hit about a 40% penetration rate for renewables, going to be a disaster for a modern economy. And sometimes, honestly, Rowan and Rita, I think that's the point.
Rita, the EVs have been a disaster for the CEO of Hertz. He's been fired, Rita, for going down the EV route. It cost him his job.
Well, I'm not surprised. I think I mentioned on this program earlier, I had to rent a car for about 3 weeks in the US, and they are just trying to give you these EV options. They're the cheapest available out of the entire fleet, and no one wants them. They're so cheap because there's absolutely no demand from people renting cars. Why would you want to be dependent on some machine that you need to attach to a wall for 12 hours or 3 hours if you've got a fast charger, where your entire driving experience is going to be impacted? And in a big country like America, a big country like Australia, it makes zero sense. Maybe if you're living, I don't know, in Brussels or little European countries, cities where you're driving 5 kilometers a day. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this all makes a lot of sense. Logging trucks, that should be the last thing that's really being focused on, is the going 100% electrified. I think that was the guy from Edison Motors in that video. He makes electric in hybrids and all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure. It sounds like him. But yeah, I mean, what he said there, getting a 60% reduction on emissions and not completely having to flood Great Britain sounds like a plan. the whole situation with Hertz is just silly. Basically, the CEO went all in on electric and it's not working out. I mean, when you're renting a car, if you're just going to stay in town, electric's great. But if you're going to be driving anywhere of any distance, it just becomes a big nuisance. They don't have the range yet, unless you're getting like a top end big battery pack Tesla or something. They just don't have the range. And even when you do, you have to like really plan it out, and you have to use the superchargers and wait. And it's just not there yet. So we'll see what happens with electric, if it takes over mainstream by getting better batteries, or if it's some hydrogen or some sort of mix. Who knows? Next up is a clip where these guys have a good laugh and roast Justin Trudeau. It's a good sight to see.
Maybe there it makes a little bit of sense. It doesn't make sense here. It doesn't add up. And where's that electricity coming from? It's still coming from coal power plants. That's what you are using to
I think
charge your electric cars.
0 cents, Rita, net 0 cents. But just very quickly have a quick look at the laughable Justin Trudeau talking how climate change and democracy don't seem to work together. Have a listen.
We're all facing a series of challenges, new and old. We're still reeling from a pandemic that put immense pressure on our democracies. We're seeing growing distrust of government and media and increased polarization exacerbated by misinformation and disinformation. We're dealing with insecurity caused by armed conflicts and climate change. So today, I'm announcing that Canada is investing $8.4 million on research across the global south to better understand how climate change interacts with democratic decline.
That's too good. I mentioned a comedy show, how climate change, James, interacts with democratic decline. These people are completely bonkers.
Well, Rowan, it's the same thing. You know, it's climate change, it's misinformation, it's disinformation, it's, you know, propaganda, it's all right. All of these sort of things, they come up with these bogeymen that wind up having one result. We have to make sure that you have free speech to say the things that are approved. We have democracy to vote for the approved candidates. It's all about narrowing freedom, narrowing your choices, Rowan and Rita. That's where this is all going.
Well, that's the comedy hour. I tell you, Trudeau doesn't get any funnier than that bloke.
And finally, here for a laugh over on my Facebook group, we've got... I'm doing the job of 3 men. This group is just hilarious. There's tons of great memes in here. It's it's a good time. This is my favorite one. I saw this earlier today. A rare look at how liberals find their logic. Look at this. This is like something I'd stick in a video. That's where we'll leave today's episode. Thanks for watching here. If you want to check out my second channel, I got that rolling now. I'm kind of upload during the middle of the day in there, testing things out. I'm going to test out some new style of content, different things here, as well as just extra clips that aren't going to make it onto the main channel here. Sometimes there's just so many clips. I've got more committee clips coming up, as well as some more Arrive Scam and some other stuff. So some of them won't be on here. Anything I think was more bigger news will be on the main channel, and stuff I'm not sure, it goes on the second channel. So subscribe over there if you want. Thanks for stopping by. Stay warm, stay fed. I'll see you guys in the next one.